Hey guys, Eddie here with the top 5 most underrated players for Madden 19. So starting with number 5, we have sort of an arbitrary one, but I think Justin Tucker at an 87 is a little insane. The dude barely ever misses a kick. I think he's missed 3 all of last year, and he can just bang in kicks from any distance. I truly believe that if you put Justin Tucker 70 yards out and said, hey, make this kick, he would have a pretty fair shot at making it. I know that's kind of a nitpicky number 5, considering he's the highest rated kicker in the game, and kickers overall are rated pretty poorly this year. But, 87 I don't think does Justin Tucker any sort of justice at all. At number 4, I've got Joe Haden. He's definitely a player I feel got docked for being injured, which I saw with a couple players this year. He's also in a position where a lot of people definitely took a step up. He definitely had some competition. People were playing a lot of good corner in the past year. However, that doesn't mean he's not still one of the best corners in the league. His rating is a little more forgiving than others. I still think it's pretty far off for one of the better corners in the league to be rated in the mid-80s. I mean, Joe Haden still hasn't missed a step. If you put him at corner, I think he's deflecting any pass you need deflected. He's not getting burned for big plays very often. So I think being in the mid-80s is unfair to him, but that's another one that's a little light, and I think the next few get into some of the more ridiculous ratings. At number 3, I have Chandler Jones, and this is where I think it starts to get a little out of hand. He has more sacks and tackles than Aaron Donald, who, without a doubt, is a great player. But when you have better stats over a 99 overall, and you're rated a 90 overall, that kind of boggles my mind a little bit. On top of that, he led the league in sacks. How can you have more sacks than anyone else in the league at a position that is almost solely judged on sacks and tackles, and be rated 9 overall less than the best player, quote unquote, at the position? It just doesn't make any sense to me how I think he's only an 89 this year. He doesn't even break into the 90s while having better stats all around than the highest overall rated player at the position. That just boggles my mind. So at number 2, I have one I think a lot of people are going to agree with, and one a lot of people are going to disagree with, and that would be Nick Foles. In my opinion, he looked like one of the single best quarterbacks in the NFL last year when he played, which of course wasn't a big sample size, but he was amazing throughout the playoffs, and he won Super Bowl MVP. Just the fact alone that the Super Bowl MVP is ranked 80 overall this year is pretty crazy to me. The things he did in the Super Bowl, I don't think a lot of quarterbacks could do. He was just making every single throw on the spot, and there was nothing New England could do to stop him, except maybe put their best defensive back in. But that's neither here or there. An 80 overall is just way too low for a guy who was just coming off one of the best seasons of his career. Maybe not stat-wise, because he didn't get into many games, but when he was playing, he was just lighting it up. And I really can't think of too many quarterbacks outside of maybe Aaron Rodgers or Brady that were throwing the ball better than him when they were in the game. And before I get to number 1, I have a few honorable mentions and just a mention. The mention is going to be Carson Wentz, because I know a lot of people are going to be saying, hey, where's Carson Wentz? He's only an 86 overall this year. He's definitely got to be number 1, right? Well, no. Actually, I kind of agree with that rating. I think it's a really good rating for him. He played a good season. I know he got injured, so that got cut short a little bit, but he was really on track to have just an above average season. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's definitely going to evolve into an elite quarterback over the next few years. I didn't think anything about last year made me say, hey, this guy is one of the best in the game right now. I don't think anybody can touch him. It just more or less made me think, hey, this guy's a good quarterback. He should be a starter. But I feel like that's how you should feel about anybody who's starting the game at quarterback. And honestly, Nick Foles ended up impressing me a lot more in the few games he did play than Carson Wentz did all season. I know that's kind of subjective, but his numbers really weren't there. Obviously, like I said, the injury kind of hurt that a little bit, because who knows, he could have threw for 500 yards in those last 3 games each. But we'll never know. Like I said, he was on pace for an average season, and he's a good quarterback, but I think 86 is right where he belongs. I don't think he is in that upper echelon of just elite quarterbacks with the Rodgers and Brady's and Russell Wilson. So that one I'm not going to put in the list. I know that would be in a lot of people's lists, but not going to add it here. So on to the honorable mentions. Tyrod Taylor at an 81 this year I think is definitely too low. Clearly he's not generally ranked amongst the best of the best quarterbacks, but I think an 85, 86 would be more fair for him. He's been doing pretty well his last few years, and I think he's really going to be big for the Browns this year, so I'd probably have him a little higher. Jadeveon Clowney is at a 91. I think that is an absolutely ridiculous rating, considering J.J. Watt is at a 98 this year, I believe, and Jadeveon has beat him in every statistical category, even if you just average their stats so you have a good feel for where they're at, just comparing to when JJ played to when he played. Jadeveon beats him hands down. It's not even close, not even remotely close. Next, I have Zach Ertz, who was sitting at a 91, which I think is pretty crazy. He was a great tight end last year, had just as many touchdown receptions as Gronk did, and he's sitting 8 points lower, and he's sitting lower than even players he beat in every statistical category outright. I think he has more touchdowns than Delaney Walker by 5 or 6, and he's still a few overall under, so that kind of bothers me a bit. And then I have Kevin Byard. He led the league in picks last year, and he's an 89 at his position, which is a position that is almost all about getting picks. I really don't know how he can be ranked so much lower than a lot of other people while he got the stat that matters most to his position. But that's neither here nor there, because we're on to number 1. So my number 1 is Juju Smith-Schuster. He had 917 yards on 58 receptions, which are very similar numbers to T.Y. Hilton, who was a full 9 overall higher. And Schuster missed 2 games. In 14 games, he did as much as one of the better receivers in the NFL and was ranked 9 overall lower. Unless having a passing resemblance to Bob Marley is a stat or something, I really don't get why T.Y. Hilton is so much higher than Schuster. Schuster is clearly one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. I don't know why they would have put him at an 80 overall. He had a great season last season. Really no big issues that are glaring out at me right now to where they just feel like he's not that great. He played great football, and he just really got the shaft on that one. He's better than a lot of people ranked above him. His stats speak for themselves, and I just don't know why they would give him the snub this hard. Hopefully that gets fixed during the regular season, because that rating is just ridiculous. Thank you guys for watching. That's the end of my list. If you want to subscribe, I don't know. I hear there's a video coming out tomorrow that might be the top 5 most overrated players. Here it might be good. If you want to click that subscribe, you'll know when it's out. Not going to force you, but I mean, it's there. Peace.